Welcome to the Trump Tyranny Tracker. I'm standing, so as Olga just pointed out, and I'm wondering if that makes it look strange that I'm standing. But maybe it does. You tell me. If you like me standing, I'll stand more. Even if you don't like me standing, I'll probably stand more. Hey, Olga, how are you?
I am here, and that's all
You're
I can
here.
say. I'm here.
It is a busy news day. I cannot believe how much is happening in the news. It's quite unbelievable. Well, we can't believe it because it's just what they're doing. But that you just pointed out before we got on the air about a new DOJ attempt to ban transgendered people from owning weapons.
Yeah, so right as we were coming on the air, there's a story that is breaking that the Department of Justice is looking at ways that they can ban transgender people from having guns. And it reminds me so much of Russia because I remember when Putin was coming to power, of course, to test out how far he can go, he went after marginalized communities. And this is exactly, I mean, this isn't about transgender, the shooting last week, or a handful of shootings by transgender, because if they look at their own Department of Justice statistics, they'll see that it's mainly white males who carry out these mass shootings in schools. But this is more about how far they can go with their powers. And today it's transgender people they're looking at and will attempt. Um, to ban guns, which I mean, for me, is fascinating because these are the people, Second Amendment. Everyone should have a war style machine gun to go and be able to do whatever they want, kill whoever they want. But then it could also be, eventually go to liberals, oh, they're a threat to the country. They're the enemies from within. So therefore, we have to strip them of gun rights. I mean, again, this story, I just shook my head. I heard
Yeah,
it breaking and I just shook my head because
it
I was
seems
like,
fun.
of course.
Yeah, it seems fundamentally against the Second Amendment, but also it's really hard to under sort of overexpress how dangerous this is in terms of its potential for getting the rest of the LGBTQ community ensnared in these kinds of legislations that makes them second class citizens again, that puts them in concentration camps. I mean, all of that, of course, echoes Nazi Germany. So it's a highly concerning development, and also that there be only three. Shootings at schools, we should say, versus mass shootings in the last 5 years that have been attributed to trans people, which is fairly low. I mean, considering it's a small community, it should be very low, but it's not as widespread as the MAGA community are trying to say in terms of the amount of people doing these shootings.
No, I mean, normally the typical profile is a white male. I mean, this is just the typical profile, nothing against white males. This is just what the profile is. And the fact that they are, not only further endangering the trans community and the LGBTQ plus community as they test how much power they can get, and also basically we have state sanctioned now discrimination because they're doing the same thing going through schools and specifically attacking the LGBTQ plus community. So, I mean, again, is short term for their culture wars, but as with immigrants, as with international students, as with green card holders and everything we're seeing, this is literally just for them to one feed their base in the short term, long term, to see how far they can go with expanding their powers, because then it will go after everyone.
Yeah, it really is one of the more terrifying developments. This vilification of the trans community is really a horrific development, and it doesn't augur well for what may happen in the future.
Same
Let's get into
thing
the.
in Russia, same thing in
It
Russia,
is,
same
yeah.
thing. It was the Chechens and other Muslims and then trans and LGBTQ plus. I mean, literally, it's the same playbook. I mean, I might as well be living there because it's watching the same exact things unfold here.
And as I know you've covered with Julie Roginski in your series about the 2016 election interference, it was really the attack on families that the Russians were using as a sort of a vehicle to get connected to the evangelical community in the United States. That's how they created the defense of marriage movement and all these movements, which hadn't existed before the Russians had created them. And then, the Americans sort of took a hold of that. And this seems to be the genesis of a lot of what we're seeing now.
Yeah, well, let's clear something up that the evangelicals and I mean these movements existed. What Russia did is capitalized on them and really fueled them
Right.
and made sure to use the disinformation and the information warfare operations and everything to just fuel them and give more reach to it and turn it into these culture wars we're seeing today.
Mhm.
So I mean it's not that, evangelicals were okay with abortion or with LGBTQ community. It's more so that Russia just basically normalized. I have another story that's not on this, but in the tracker for anyone who wants to look at yesterday's tracker, with Pete Hegseth being associated with an evangelical extremist sect, which really doesn't even think women should vote. I mean, basically, they've said that women
Yeah, I've
should
seen that
be
before. Yeah.
so subservient with their to their husbands. Um, that the podcast that this evangelical group puts out ties a lot into Russia and crosses over a lot with the Russian Orthodox extremist, including Charles Bausman. So it's very interesting that this is even tapping right into our defense secretary, who is a loyal worshiper of this crazy
That is
sect.
interesting. If there's any ties between the Defense Secretary and Bausman, that would be interesting too. If there's any historical ties, it'd be interesting to find out. Let's move on to the Trump tyranny tracker for today. It's day 226, right? Of the
Today's 228,
how did we,
recapping
what
227.
did we
I know.
miss? How did I
We're
miss a day?
tired.
Okay, so normally I add this into the scripting that I do, but I didn't get a chance to today. So 227 is the day that we're recapping today.
We're
Um,
recapping
226,
227. I
227,
don't
yes.
know. Whatever it is, we're recapping. Forgive us.
We've really got it together here.
Yes, forgive us. We're on the drop
Let's
of a
get into
mess.
it. A leaked Guatemalan government report has shared the Trump administration's narrative about child deportations. The document reveals that 59 out of 115 families of unaccompanied minors in the U.S. tried to disappear last weekend, actually wanted their children to stay in America. Sorry, let me try that again. The document reveals that 59 out of 115 families of unaccompanied minors the U.S. tried to disappear last weekend actually wanted their children to stay in America, directly contradicting Trump officials' claims that the families were eager for reunification. These families described the forced return as intimidation, not the heartwarming reunions the administration has been selling the public. So tell us what is going on there.
So what happened is that the sociopathic, cruel government packed a plane load of kids over the weekend or late Friday. Thank goodness a judge stepped in and literally stopped the plane at the tarmac, and they actually, for a change, listened and
Wow, that
didn't
is a
disappear
change.
these kids. Yeah, these kids. And the judge put a stop until they can, have hearings on it. But then you had the Department of Homeland Security basically selling it to the public as the Guatemalan government has requested this and this is what they wanted. And then meanwhile, obtained leaked emails, I believe it's Associated Press, found or Reuters, found that it's opposite of exactly what Trump and his ilk are selling to us, and that they basically lied and tried to disappear these kids under false pretenses. So I mean, and this is kids. This is so heartbreaking because this is kids. I can't even imagine, having a regime come in with their masked thugs, grab
Mm.
kids while they're sleeping, load them on
It's
a plane,
horrific.
try to disappear them, and then on top of it, lie to Americans exactly what they're doing, why they're doing, and
Mhm.
whatnot. Thank goodness, like I said, the judge literally stopped the plane in its tracks, and the kids are still here while they have court hearings to
But the
figure
fact that
out
this
who
is
the person.
actual operationally what they're doing is kind of stunning. I mean, they're just, it's grabbing kids and disappearing them is not exactly what you'd ever expect of the United States of America.
Oh,
And here
yeah.
they are doing this with, it seems in broad daylight without seeming to care about it. It's really kind of stunning that these actions are taking
And
place.
then lying to us on top of it, lying, and really fabricating evidence, and then you come to the real story that this is not exactly how it went down.
Yeah, well, lying is, we're pretty used to them lying to us now, I think. So, but still, yeah, you're
But
absolutely
now
right that
they're taking it into a new territory because this isn't just propaganda or disinformation. Now there are actual results. One of the stories, if you want to hop into the Venezuela story, because
yeah,
this is another perfect thing that this is now no longer just standing at a podium and spewing shit. This actually has real repercussions that are criminal.
I'm going to get to it. So in 1 second. Um, you know what?
I could read it off, rattle it off.
You can rattle it off. Go for it.
So, our regime, I mentioned that as I've been tracking, I've been seeing a lot of movement in Venezuela the past several weeks, and I'm like, this looks like, we're going to war. And over the weekend, as the dictators are uniting in China, Trump decided to incinerate a boat off of the Venezuelan coast, killing 11 people and basically selling it to the American public that these are quote unquote narco terrorists. First of all, we don't know what this boat was. We don't know who was on this boat. Soon enough we'll find out from the families who was on the boat. But bottom line, the United States now is involved in extrajudicial killings. And in a few news stories, they're actually scrambling to figure out a legal basis for the 11 murders they committed off the Venezuelan coast. I
Do they
mean,
even know if there
normally
was narcotics involved in this?
we
Or
have absolutely no clue. It could have
they,
been fishermen. It could have been a party boat. It could have been anyone. They first said it's heading to America, then Trinidad. They've changed their story. I have to say that, at least Russia carries out this, war crimes and extrajudicial killings. And I mean, everything and anything you could think of there carry out, but at least they put some thought to it. These people did this first, and now the story keeps changing. What is this boat? Where was it going? Who was on the boat? And then on top of it, they're trying to find a legal basis because, I mean, it's against international law. You can't just
yeah,
take a boat in the
you'd
middle of
think.
international waters and incinerate it,
I
and then
mean,
make up a story about
yeah.
why you incinerated it. So, and now they're trying to, still work out a legal basis and come up with the proper story to sell America of what these 11 people were, who they were, what happened, how it happened, and whatnot.
I just,
This really is mass murder, if you
yeah,
ask me.
absolutely. If they're knocking out these boats from with their missiles, and without any warning, without any attempt to figure out if these are actually what they're saying. I mean, it's not like they're weapons of mass destruction on board. There may be narcotics, but we don't even know if there are narcotics on
And
board.
narcotics doesn't carry a death penalty, so if they suspected narcotics, they could have blocked the boat, arrested the people on the boat, bring them to the United States, and then prosecute them
Yeah,
for
exactly.
trafficking of
Exactly. That's the way
narcotics.
it's normally done. Is you pick them up and you bring them to the United States. And this idea that the United States can actually bomb the Caribbean, at will, is ridiculous. It's ridiculous. It's not their territory.
And not
Um,
even have a story for it put together or
yeah,
the legal basis for carrying out such a thing because we're not at war with Venezuela. We're not at war. It's a different thing if it's done under the cover of war. We're not at war officially, as far as I'm concerned. Maybe in Trump's head we are, but I mean, you still need to have some kind of declaration of war and Congress to step in and say, yes, you can go ahead with this war, not just, wake up and
yeah,
say,
he's
well,
using
I'm
emergency.
just going to start bombing a bunch of ships.
He's using an emergency proclamation, basically saying that the drug trade is a critical thing that requires war. That is now requiring a reaction like this, which is nonsense, of
But
course.
it's not war, and
But he
that
thinks it is.
emergency
Yeah, I mean, he's declaring
emer
it a war. And certainly, that's what he's saying. I mean, that's why they seems to be planning around attacking the cartels in Mexico. And as you keep pointing out, quite heroically, and thank you for doing it on a regular basis, the Venezuela situation, where he seems to have, way too many forces stationed on naval vessels that are, potentially targeting Venezuela. They think that's what they'll be targeting in an
we don't
upcoming
even know if it
conflict.
was Venezuelans, it could be Colombians, it could be
Yeah,
anyone. We
right.
don't even know who was on the boat, and if the US ships just got there, I'm sorry, US intelligence is good, not that good, to suddenly within a matter of, days say, "Oh, look, ship, it has X amount of drugs on it, these are the
Yeah.
people on it, this is, Tren de Aragua." I mean, give me a break. Like, you usually have to gather this intelligence, verify, before just going and incinerating a boat of people off of the coast. And again, if it was drug smugglers, you block the boat and
Mhm.
arrest these people, bring them to the United States, and prosecute them for drug trafficking.
How much does it even cost to launch a missile against us or whatever this is they used? I mean, it seems way huge overreaction.
And then they posted on the State Department literally as it happened. I mean, I've never seen anything this crazy. And I follow Russia my whole life, and I can tell you I've never seen anything this.
Really, it's even crazy for by Russian standards. It is really unbelievable. We'll keep watching that story. It's really interesting and fascinating. Thanks for bringing it to us.
And
Uh,
they have more. They're planning more of these extrajudicial
well, this is why they have all these
killings. So
vessels there. That's why they have naval vessels parked offshore of Venezuela. It's unbelievable. Um, Moving to this next story, the Trump Department of Justice attempted to seize Dominion voting machines from two Missouri counties that were used in the 2020 election. County clerks refused, citing state law and chain of custody rules. This comes as Trump has vowed to ban voting machines entirely, and he's preparing sweeping executive orders to reshape American elections. The timing is no coincidence. This is happening 22 months before the 2026 midterms.
yeah,
What's the
so
point of
instead
stealing them?
Russia shot planes down, they shoot many planes down.
Mm,
And they see civilian planes, and for them, they're trigger happy. On top of trying to assassinate the head of EU this weekend.
unbelievable.
So but at least, they when they shoot planes down and carry out these war crimes and crimes of aggression, they have a story. They don't, just shoot it down and then everyone has a different story, and you don't know what in the world is happening. Anyway, with this is, incredible because I don't know why they want these Dominion voting machines. Probably, I honestly, I don't know what it is. So maybe they want to discover, quote unquote, something there to say, look, see, we did win the 2020
Probably.
election. Bottom line is that the Department of Justice should not, or any agency federal should not be interfering in state elections. I mean, states have their own sovereignty, they have their own ways of creating rules for to run their elections. Trump can sign whatever he wants. It's going to be as good, hopefully we'll see what the Supreme Court says. They're nuts. But he called, basically, uh, constitutionally, he cannot ban voting machines. He
Mm,
cannot ban anything. He can't ban mail-in voting. But what he is doing is setting a precedent for 20, and not precedents, laying the groundwork for 2026 to scream rigged elections
mhm.
should Democrats get the House back or Senate potentially. So this is what he's doing, and as a result, you see him, attempting to seize this. They want to send ICE agents to, which is not even what Pritzker, he mentioned this, but this literally Steve Bannon told us
Yeah,
this.
yeah.
You don't
The
even
voting
need to
booths.
listen to a Democrat say this because Steve Bannon, we covered it last week, gave us the playbook that they intend to put armed agents at polling places to intimidate people.
Yeah.
Um, So this just goes more with this, and frankly, I'm happy that this clerk said no, you cannot have our voting machines because we do have laws in this country and a chain of custody when it comes to elections and whether it's paper ballots or voting machines or whatnot. There is a chain of custody, and thank goodness they didn't succumb to this. But it just shows you how egregious these people are and how lawless they are. And
And there's
this is our
proprietary,
Department
yeah.
of Justice.
And there's proprietary software, and the way these machines work is very specific. You don't want anybody just getting access to how they work, so they should not be attempting to gain custody of these voting machines because they could really, damage a whole bunch of processes. It's not just that polling station or those voting machines. It could be the entire system if those things get corrupted. So really, not fair play at all here by the Department of Justice, and certainly not declaring what the purpose was is makes it very suspicious. Trump, we've done the Venezuela story, and so then here we are. Finally, Florida has announced plans to become the first state to eliminate all childhood vaccine mandates. This is an incredible story. Surgeon General Joseph Ladapo, calling the requirements immoral, is aligning with RFK Jr.'s anti-vaccine agenda. This would dismantle decades of public health safeguards that have prevented disease like measles, mumps, and polio from devastating American children. This is a really weird press conference. This guy's very strange. And his basic point was that the government shouldn't be telling anyone what to put in their bodies at all. Um, you know,
Well, if that's the case, the government shouldn't be telling people not to drink and drive
yeah,
because you know what? My body, my rights,
yeah.
and wear a seatbelt or do this or that. Again, we have laws in this country. We have, recommendations and mandates for a reason. And my first thought was these poor children, because frankly, I mean, any parent who does not give their vaccines children at this mass rate should really be charged with child endangerment, if you ask me, because if you are willingly sacrificing your child to diseases that have been cured, you really should not have custody even of your child. But let's put that beside the point. This, goes back to the fact that today I watched bits and pieces of the hearing with RFK, and I
Oh,
just couldn't believe it. I remember the days that you turn on C-SPAN and you fell asleep after 2 minutes. I mean,
yeah,
that's how boring these
yeah.
hearings were. This sociopath was spewing disinformation, lies, lie after lie, so combative as he's really dismantling American health infrastructure to kill all of us.
Mhm.
And then on top of it, he's screaming at the senators who are asking him questions and doing their oversight duty.
And shaking and incoherent at times, not making a lot of sense. Like not just a bad performance; it was a terrible performance, and it really underlines how little he knows about any medical health. I mean, he does not know very much at all, and he's quoting things that he should know. But doesn't know. He doesn't even know how many people died of COVID vaccines, who died from COVID in America. Like, how can you not know that fact and be the HHS secretary? And here he is just, mumbling away and attacking, as you pointed out, the senators. It was a disgraceful performance.
I've never seen anything like it. I mean, this really was the worst of all of them. And as far as with hearings, but not only doesn't he have the knowledge, which fine, okay, for whatever sake, we have an idiot who's head of this.
Right.
He purged everyone who does have the knowledge.
Yeah.
So I mean, then that takes it to another level, and this is why Florida is doing this. And then my second thought after like these poor kids, because I mean, now you're really going to see diseases, come up. Like we had people die in Texas from measles. I mean, we're in
Mm.
2025. Why are people dying from measles?
Yeah.
And this is what's going to happen with other diseases that have been eradicated thanks to vaccines. My
Or new
second thought
diseases or
was
new pandemics. I mean, will we have the knowledge
again the
to even
pandemic.
develop actual vaccines for whatever might come next? He's completely gutted all these departments.
Yep.
It's and then it fired, as you point out, the CDC director. Well, didn't fire.
Everyone.
Yeah,
They purged everyone. They
yeah.
literally purged anyone and everyone. The whole vaccine advisory panel, 17 of them, I believe, purged. I mean, anyone and everyone they purged, and they're putting extremists into these positions in order to, sell to Americans that vaccines, that have saved millions on top of millions on top of millions of lives for decades. I mean, this isn't, even COVID that we all took in a rush that was just developed.
Mm,
This is like we're talking about many, many decades of people who now don't have to worry about getting polio or
yeah.
chicken pox or, any of these things that we're protected. My second thought was I am in New York. How in the hell do I get New York to block the borders? Because the last thing we need, it's bad enough that they're creating this, insanity inside of Florida, but then these people travel.
Mhm.
And then they're
Yeah,
gonna transmit their diseases across states and make the rest of us sick, and we're not asking for any of this, and unfortunately, vaccines are very powerful, but you need herd immunity for this power.
right.
Once you fall below a certain percentage, then it becomes, not as effective. So, I mean, why are the rest of us going to die, you know,
Well, the state
because
departments of health are stepping up. There's actually a big alliance now forming between the Democratic
yeah.
state departments of health in order to, to replace the CDC, basically
Yeah, but
replace
they
them.
need to block the borders,
Yeah,
people.
yeah, yeah. I mean, you're right. I mean, certainly that's a way of people moving the diseases around. The other thing that's interesting is I think it was Bernie Saunders who said that he wanted to see RFK impeached. And I think I think I think it was him, but certainly that's a call I've been hearing. People are so disgruntled with him, and there is so much, lack of confidence in his ability to lead that he could be the first to be impeached out of this administration.
I hope they do impeach him, and you know what? With everything he's doing, the danger he's putting, um, like putting Americans in danger. And I track this every day. Half of my government collapse section is on RFK and the
Mm,
various things happening, whether grants being pulled, the pediatric brain cancer grant for kids. I mean, who does this? Like, why would you stop? you know, a grant that is helping, come up with ways to solve brain cancer for kids. Like, why would you kill kids? You
The
know,
only
like,
answer would be someone who's a sociopath, as you pointed out at the beginning of the segment. I mean,
but
it's
he's
how do
not
you?
that he's not that much though of a sociopath as far as when it comes to vaccinating his kids.
Right,
I mean, someone called him
right,
a charlatan. He is a charlatan. He
yeah,
found a niche where he can make money because there have been conspiracies against vaccines. I mean, I remember in the 80s, it was about the HIV, and, there's always conspiracies surrounding diseases and vaccines and whatever. But his kids are fully vaccinated. I'm sure his grandchildren are vaccinated.
mm,
So he's selling these lies that will kill people while he sits there, and has his family protected. I mean, it is extremely disgusting what is happening, and shame on Republicans. I mean, yes, they pushed back a little. Frankly, he shouldn't even step foot into HHS. They should schedule an impeachment hearing, both Democrats, Republicans, and join forces. But these Republicans are spineless.
mm.
So
He's
they're
actually a grave danger to all Americans. He's actually endangering all of our lives. He really is. It's beyond just concern. This is really an emergency that needs to be dealt with, and I hope they do.
Yeah, if someone needs to use emergency powers, this is a health emergency that is being manufactured. So really, like, Trump uses emergency powers for everything from the economy to immigrants to everything in between. This is actually an emergency because,
Yeah.
I mean, he literally is dismantling, and I live in New York. His actions are affecting me because our CVS and Walgreens said they're not carrying the COVID vaccine because they're too confused as to what the guidance is and what will be covered, won't be covered. So literally, in the tri-state area, New York, Connecticut, New Jersey, you're not going to be able to find COVID vaccinations, which you could walk into any pharmacy, God knows CVS, anyone who lives here who knows there's one like literally on every other corner. You could walk before in and in 2 seconds in and out, get your flu vaccine, get your COVID booster, and out the door you go. And he now basically took this away from everyone.
Chaos and confusion seem to be the logo or the slogan, sorry, of the Trump administration, wherever they can sow it. That is the Trump Tyranny Tracker for today. Olga, do you want to promote your new lecture series that you're doing, your seminar series?
Oh, yeah, so we are looking at the 2016 election, Julie Roginski and I, because, thanks to Republicans who need to relive everything, now they are actually forming a committee to prove to America that there never was an insurrection because, we all imagined it. So
Yeah.
they are forming, they're rewriting that part of history. They're also rewriting the fact that Russia attacked the 2016 US election to get Trump into power and were successful at it and have admitted to it. I mean, they don't hide it. But Republicans, are trying to go a different way, lay the groundwork to prosecute anyone who attempted to protect America from Russia's attack in 2016. And as a result, Julie and I have to go and relitigate the 2016 election and show how from 2008 to 2016, every single way that Russia penetrated, infiltrated, indoctrinated, radicalized the various um, sectors in America's society to put Trump into office. Their main goal was not to allow Hillary Clinton into office. Secondary goal, put Trump into office. So we this week covered how Russia, a decade prior almost to the 2016 election, infiltrated Fox News and other right-wing media outlets, how you see a lot of crossover with their propaganda, disinformation, how there was a feedback loop between Russia Today, Sputnik, and Russian media outlets with this. So this is this week's active measures.
That's at unmaskingrussia.substack.com. That's where you can access that. And you can also access the Trump Tyranny Tracker, which is Olga Lautman's brilliant tracking of everything the Trump regime is doing in terms of authoritarian creep. At narrative.org, narrativ.org, I have the chapter 9 of the Greatest Heist series. This is a really interesting chapter where we look at 1996. How was Donald Trump rescued from really severe bankruptcy? He was in debt, $3.2 billion. And then he came back with a $450 billion positive amount in his. Oh, sorry, I'm losing it. A positive amount in the in 1996. He was suddenly back on the Forbes list, back on the Forbes 400 list, and this is a really interesting look at what happened that year. His trip to Moscow with a bunch of really interesting friends and people, and then also the connection between him and Jeffrey Epstein in terms of the money passing between the two of them, or possibly passing between the two of them, in order to make that $450 million boon happen for him in 1996. So that's at narrative.org. And I'll be back in 27 minutes with Dean on the 5-stack top 5 stories of the day. All right, 26 minutes. So the standing wasn't so bad, was it?
Uh-huh.
The standing wasn't so bad. No, I quite like it. I mean, I'll move around a little bit, but whatever. Thanks for being here, everybody.
We said so much behind the computer,
that's what I'm trying to do.
And researching and investigating that standing is good for a bit.
It is very good to do. Have a great day, everybody. We'll see you tomorrow.
Bye, everyone. Bye.